to see you, nice.
Nice to see you,
For those who are returning,
I appreciate you.
for those who are here for the first time, you are warmly welcome. Please subscribe and show me.
LOVE.
A wise man once said that the real cause of ignorance is nothing else but our inability to remember the real nature of us. Is a lack of spirituality the deep cause for ignorance? We get so caught up in internal melodramas, social pressures, personal expectations, social norms, and the list goes on and on and on. We just don't have time to pause and go, Prana. Woo! So like many, I grew up in a Christian household where it was Sunday service every morning and evening, Bible studies every Friday. A few years ago, I ventured into spirituality. And for me personally, I do not regret it for a second, but in saying that, I'm grateful to have grown up in the church and to have had that upbringing, because the main form of spirituality that stood out to me the most was African spirituality. African spirituality. But what really hits home when it comes to African spirituality is the fact that it was stripped away from the indigenous peoples. Not only is African spirituality the origin of most major religions, it has also inspired many spiritual practices throughout the world. The richness and the depths of African spirituality is very intuitive. When the indigenous peoples were stripped away from their spiritual traditions, from their culture, their spiritual practices, what has that then done to a people's identity, their outlook on life, their perceptions? My next video will expand on the effects on the mind, the psyche, once your culture, your spiritual practices, your traditions have been stripped away. What's way more compelling for me when it comes to African spirituality, European missionaries had discovered African spirituality. The sounds of voodoo, the depths of obia really played on their conscience, to the point where they had so much fear and misunderstanding of their spirituality. They didn't want the indigenous people of that land inheriting it, practicing it, and passing it on to their future generations. African spirituality explores the depths of nature, Mother Nature, acknowledging that God is the provider and Mother Nature is the shelter. The sun, which gives us photosynthesis, is a vitamin D precursor. It carries abundance of energy that we soak up, acknowledging water, the minerals it provides.
And without water,
I'm a dead man walking.
Trees and plants, the oxygen that they give out. True spirituality is not separating yourself from the nature process. Myself feared the sounds of voodoo, obia, thinking it was something that should be put to bed and we should not ever disturb it. But now if I was to go back in time,
I would slap myself silly.
because at the end of the day, everything depends on the intention behind it.
I pray that they do not succeed.
I pray that they are successful, that they have an abundance of life and richness and goodness. But the true essence of spirituality for me and many people I know who are deeply spiritual is how consciously aware it made them. Consciously aware of what they're putting into their temple, their body. Consciously aware that our body is a vehicle to get us around, so how we look after it, how do we treat our bodies. Becoming more aware of your thoughts, your feelings, acknowledging energies that are constantly passing through your body, and learning how to separate yourselves from emotions and feelings that we take on and we make it define us as if it is
Who we are.
Spiritual journeys is so unique to the individual and finding out what works for you. But as it was for me, tedious and difficult, having to confront my inner demons, social pressures, personal expectations, what I adapted to as a social norm, my emotional attachments to people, my insecurities, my burdens. In this day and age where everything is so fixated on your assets, on your financial game, on your life goals, and that if you reach a certain age, are you at a loss? Are you a failure? Thinking and feeling as though we're never going to die, and then die never really had lived. And then the further back we step away from our consciousness and our self-awareness, we become a prisoner to self. We become a prisoner to our soul, to a point where we can't really see beyond the surface. That will be the journey for our mental, spiritual downfall. The second we become a prisoner to self, we then develop an incarnal appetite filled with greed, selfishness, lust, gluttony, thinking and feeling as though everything is intact, deluded, vain, arrogant, so far away from your consciousness or self-awareness that you believe that everyone else is in error apart from self. One of the most fundamental spiritual practices which I have made a habit, Asian belief, Do. Do simply means the way, being present, being just right. I like to call this the nature of balance, which looks at the different dynamics of yin and yang, femininity and masculinity, dark and light, good and evil, the nature of balance. Do touches on patience, compassion, the ability to let go. Life is unpredictable and nothing lasts forever. Laying it down.
Lay it down, lay it down.
The truth is, we are a product of our environment, and it does become extremely inevitable in life to get caught up in selfishness and language and false morality, and become a struggle to recognize the underlying root causes that's become rigid, inflexible perspectives. Because we all have unreliable perspectives that hurt our spontaneity and our true happiness. And that's just because what we see as death, good, bad, beautiful, ugly, all depends on our life experiences and our cultures and our values. Anything in this life that has a massive effect on us psychologically will affect us consciously, emotionally, and spiritually. I've seen that when we are not caught up into the nature of balance and we start to become the extreme ends of anything in this world, we become mucky, bucky, wacky, bucky, sick. The extreme ends of anything is disturbing. Too hot, too cold. Too far, too close.
Too crazy.
Too calm.
Too loud.
It's clear that when we are the extreme ends of anything, we cannot survive. When we center ourselves by not participating in the two ends of extremes, we become more balanced, controlled, aware, at peace. Whenever I personally feel like I'm getting caught up in my mind, I have an unchanging mindset. My mindset is becoming rigid. The simple affirmations I always go back to are these. I acknowledge my ignorance is the first step to maturity and growth. Each day provides me with a learning experience. I am open to new ways of thinking. Like always, thank you for watching. Please do subscribe, share, and show me some love. I will see you in the very next video. Mwah.